So we're live,
I
are
think
we?
I think we are live. So welcome. So welcome everybody. John O'Brake. I'm here with Linda and Mark. We're doing a multi-continent experience today. So bear with us. We've got Linda and Mark in France, myself here in the US as usual. We're just laughing about how we haven't really been anywhere for 6 months, which is way out of character. I think for all of us, getting a little bit of cabin fever here, but we get the pleasure of having Melanie with us all the way from Australia today, and yeah, we're very excited about this because this is a really some really great topic around how we communicate, how we present ourselves, and how we come across, and so we got a little bit of a spoiler alert the other night, and the other night my time, morning in Australia, and so it's just very exciting. And you'll love the accent too, as they say here in the US. I love your accent, you know. We'll let you guess what country she's from. But yeah, welcome, Melanie. Linda, do you want to do a quick introduction?
Absolutely, my pleasure. Melanie and I met about 3 years ago, do you think?
Yeah.
June, I'd say. And I was running some workshops there, and that's where we first met. And Melanie is one of these dynamic women who nothing stops her. So she asks the questions, how do I do this? And then she runs for it as hard as she can. She's an amazing entrepreneur. And I think since then I've seen you gallivant over to Scotland doing workshops with some colleagues.
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
Also you made some pretty major moves, haven't you?
Yes.
And in those major moves, it's like moving country, relationships, jobs, from a small town to a large town. Like, you've done so much, and you've just have explored everything. So we're really happy to have you here and to chat to you about your journey as an entrepreneur, because you certainly have had a journey, or are having a journey and an adventure.
Yes.
Enormous adventure. So your story as an entrepreneur, we'd love to hear more about that. Can you? Yeah, it's been quite incredible.
Definitely. Thank you so much for having me. It's such a pleasure to come on here and chat to you all and be able to share this. And Mark and Linda, you play such a massive part in my journey. In terms of everything that happens, I always go back to, what did Linda and Mark talk about again, about pivoting and changing? And I can tell you, like, coming when COVID hit, I was like, right, okay, so Linda and Mark have taught me stuff about this. So what do I need to do?
They knew about COVID all from the beginning, right? So
of course.
We'll call it the business in bare feet virus rather than the China. Yeah, there we go.
Well, we did actually get that little bit of a heads up being here in Europe, but sort of hit harder here, and the rest of the world was looking on, but not really getting ready for it. And that's an interesting point. Well, let's jump halfway through. What happened when COVID hit, Melanie?
Yes, well, I went home to Scotland for, I've just given that away now to where I was from, but I went home for 2 months. I went home to kind of lick my wounds a little bit after ending a relationship, and I was like, I'm going to go home and my parents are going to look after me for a couple of months. But really, I suppose it was a goal of, I wanted to go home and actually see that I could live a laptop lifestyle, as in, if I took my laptop home for 2 months, can I still keep my business in Australia but grow it even more over in the UK? And I surpassed that, of being able to do that, which was amazing, to just take a bit of a risk and go, hey, like, what's the worst case scenario out of this? Like, I get a holiday for 2 months. And my parents got to see firsthand what it's actually like to see what I do in an everyday occurrence. And I can tell you, it was not a holiday when I went home for 2 months. I did work my butt off, but it was so good to be able to
Oh,
to do it. Yeah, like literally it was just constantly my laptop. Boxing Day, I'm like, Boxing Day sales, let's go on and we'll start creating tours. And, you know, I literally was planning my entire 2020 in 2 months, going home, and I was constantly on and then mapping out all my tours that I was coming back to Australia with. So I had my whole year mapped out, right? Which I know for a lot of people did the same.
Yeah.
Mapped out my entire year. Like literally I was going to have so much time, leverage, freedom. Literally I had everything set up for myself, like everything. Came home, well, it is home in Australia, and I set myself up to do house sitting. So I had split up from my partner, and then basically didn't have anywhere to live when I was coming back. And I'd heard about house sitting, and I thought, well, I could then tour with my business and do house sitting at the same time. I thought, well, that's pretty cool. I don't need to pay rent, and I can just move every so often. And I literally had bookings for the first 6 months. I was literally fully booked with house sitting for 6 months. And I was like, yes, epic. And I did my tour of central Queensland. So I went up, did my tour, and then obviously COVID was hitting, but it was like, I'll see you all in June. I'll be back in June, guys. No problem at all. This thing will pass, right?
Yeah.
Don't know what this is happening here. And I came back down to Brisbane, and I had a couple of more events here to finish off my tour. So Gold Coast was going to be the last one, and I dug my heels in with it was still going to go ahead in person. And then a week out I went, I think I'm going to take it online, because you know that I do everything in person. So it was fear. That's why I was adamant that I was like, I'm doing it in person, because the thought of changing it to online was just the fear of, oh my God, like I don't know how to do this, and I don't know how to interact with people and run a workshop the same online as I would in person. Mm-hmm. So then I had to really think about the people and go, let's just get over this fear and let's just do it online. And I'm so glad that I did, because it set me up for the entire 6 months of going, well, if I can do this online, I can literally do my entire business online. And so basically over COVID, like within the first couple of weeks, when I eventually had somewhere to live, because I had a week of, I think I'm going to live in my car, and I don't know how to run my business from my car without internet. So that's going to be an issue. So I'm going to have to sort that out.
Though inside, if you were doing any podcasts or anything, a lot of people run into the car.
I know. So I had a bit of panic going, I know what I can do with my business to pivot, but I can't really do it from my car. So I'm really going to have to sort that out first, because then I can just run with it. And I suppose I put it out there to the universe. I was like, just help me out with this. And then within a couple of days, I'm now in a 2-bedroom apartment in the Gold Coast, and it's amazing. So these things do work out. And then literally within 2 weeks, I went, okay, what do I do in person? What can I then change to online? And I literally did everything that I did in person. Within 2 weeks, I transferred everything online, and I literally have just ran with that the entire time of being able to build on that. But I also had that moment of, so many people are going to go into fear. Mm-hmm. And I felt like, you know, all the work I've done in myself internally, it was like, this is my moment. This is my moment to go, hey, I'm going to be here and I'm going to help you, and I'm going to put on free webinars, free training, and I'm just going to really show that compassion, care, and love for the people who were going to go into survival and fear, mm-hmm. which is totally understandable. But I thought, I have no family. I'm on my own. I have nothing in terms of any other responsibility. And I went, I'm just going to go full in and just do this and see what happens.
This is like your first business too, isn't it?
Yes. I know.
You're unstoppable.
No. So I just ran with it. And I suppose you kind of forget that COVID was happening, because when you just be at home and you're on the laptop, like it's not until you go outside and you're like, oh, that's right, I forgot about this. Like, oh yeah, that's right, sorry, I can't go near anybody. But I just literally put my head down and just was coming up with stuff, consistently putting stuff online. And I'm amazed at myself for doing it, but it served me well in my business moving forward with how much I have done online and how much I can continue to do that. So it was a massive learning out of that, but again, going through the fear of doing all of those things and doing my very first webinar on Zoom and going, oh my God, like, I don't know how this is going to go. Let's just go for it and see what happens.
Melanie, what is your business? What do you do?
What do I do? That's such an interesting question. Totally forgot about mentioning that. Thank you. And I suppose that's that whole point of like when we share stories, sometimes it's good to share stories first before getting into any more of what you do. So my business is Speaking Styles, and I help business owners, entrepreneurs, managers and leaders how to gain clarity and confidence to talk about themselves, who they are, what they do, and how they help people through public speaking, storytelling, and soft skills training as well. So I was teaching everybody how to do all of this offline prior to COVID. So then as I took my business online, I've now then helped everybody else do the same and get really clear and confident to speak on camera. So that's been a massive thing. And I suppose I'm lucky that I have done heaps of those things prior to COVID, so it was easy enough to then transfer that over. So basically, I've been helping lots of people get super clear on what it is and who they are and be able to get on camera or do it in person as well.
Excellent.
Almost good timing.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, you were just talking about just staring down your own demons, weren't you? Just in terms of having to pivot your business model from face-to-face to online. It's almost like you've kind of lived your own journey. It's like, have you written yourself a client testimony yet? Did you do
Good idea.
You're writing a book at the moment, I believe, as well, or you're co-author?
So co-authored a book. It's out on Tuesday on Kindle.
Right.
And so I know all of these things that it was on my to-do list. I'll become an author one day. It'll happen one day. And then I've now created 2 online programs as well. So all of these things that were not on my list of 2020. So I have to say I've massively felt the fear and went for it anyway, because I'm a speaker, I'm not a writer. So when this opportunity came to me, I thought, imagine coming out of 2020 of being an author now. I thought, well, that'd be pretty awesome, because that's really on my to-do list at some point. So I thought, okay, and then I wanted to really enjoy the experience of writing, even though it's really not my thing. So then a friend of mine said to me, he said, like, why are you doing the process of writing it? And I went, because I feel like I've just got to get into the writing mode. And he went, yeah, but you're a speaker. He's like, why are you not speaking your chapter? And I went, oh, I know. I just thought it seemed really too easy. So I ended up, I did do that. I thought, let's stay in my zone of genius. And I literally, within an hour, I had my chapter done as in spoken. I then went on to, if anybody's heard of Otter, I went to Otter, uploaded it, downloaded it, and transcribed my chapter. Literally did all of this within an hour, and then did that. And then I have a very dear client who is a copywriter, and I sent it to her, and she did it in terms of a reader's mind and not a listener's mind. So literally that was my chapter done. So, which is amazing. So that comes out on Kindle on Tuesday next week. So
that's amazing. Yeah.
I know. So amazing all these things that have happened out of nowhere.
How's the feedback?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have to say, 2020 has definitely brought a lot of fear, a lot of imposter. I feel like I'm very uncomfortable every day.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you clearly look uncomfortable, short of words, very unsure of yourself.
we certainly have seen you do incredible things like you know, bouncing around, helping people. You have this desire to help others, like this absolute passion to help others. So yeah, it's wonderful, and it just, you know, it completely flows through your work. So it's lovely to see.
But it sounds like there's a lot of things going on in terms of how you've kind of discovered a lot of your strengths and played your strengths. I mean, even just describing the way you are, you know, developing your book. You know, it's I think there's a lot of people that sit there and think, I don't know how to. I just don't have either the staying power or the mind or whatever to sit down for days on end and write. But I can talk.
Yeah. Exactly, and I would say that to anybody, because in terms of the way in which I teach people how to share stories and how to do all of that, if you can speak it, then why not record it? And there's plenty of, and I signed up to Otter and I got it done for free, because you get like up to something like 3 uploads or something like that in a month. So I was able to do all of that for no cost at all to be able to put my chapter together as well. So there's loads of tools out there to use.
Yeah. Sorry, what was that, Mark?
How quick is it to speak instead of typing? Oh
gosh, yeah.
Oh, so much quicker. So much quicker. Like literally, that was me. I was under an hour to say speak 3,000 words. And then upload, like download it from Zoom and then upload it onto Otter. Everything was done within an hour.
Yeah.
So did you have, sorry, we're kind of getting off on a bit of a tangent here, but did you have a script that you followed or a framework, or did you just
I already had that. So I'd already done a bit of pre-planning a few weeks before that. So I already knew what I was going to do and what I was going to say.
Yeah. Fantastic. Yeah, there we go.
What are the main things that people are coming to you for in Speaking Styles online that's different to what you were getting offline? Is there any difference in the way that people are coming to you more for something specific, or is it any different to offline and online? The problem?
I suppose it's not massively different. I suppose it's just around the confidence factor for people doing it online that's changed, because again, I would say probably that people like to have the in-person, the body language, the audience's feedback, and I suppose then this little thing up here suddenly becomes quite a fear factor for people. So I've then been able to teach people and help them around, take away the camera, don't even think about the camera. It's like we can all still see each other, we can all still see, we can still sense and feel all of those things. So it's then about taking that barrier away of, just because we're not in person, it's seeing the fact that we are in person still. And so those have been those barriers for people to look at something differently to what they have potentially been used to before, and then teaching people to not necessarily rely on an audience for recognition, for validation, is that just really hone in on your power and your strength. And I said, by having this opportunity to do it online, it's giving you more skills. So when you go back to being in person, you're not going to go back to, oh, is that okay? Is that all right, everybody in the audience? Because as humans, we want to be able to help people. However, we can't always look for people to validate what we're saying all the time.
I've actually seen that. Like, I hang around a lot of speakers and that sort of thing, and they've actually, it's interesting, but they have kind of struggled with the whole online thing more so than the ones who are like, I'm just going to learn to present myself on camera, because often, as you say, you know, it's a recording and we can screw it up and do another take, right? And but it's interesting. It's the public speakers who have sort of said, well, I can't see my audience. I can't hear them respond. I don't, because there is such a huge factor of that energy in the room, right? That you do play off. And I've seen a lot of these kind of keynote speaker kind of people really struggle through this season. And And yeah, just anyway, I've had a few conversations around that, so it's interesting that yeah.
Well, what about the impact of having to see yourself? That must be a bit in your face for some people too, to suddenly look at the mirror, seeing themselves returned.
That's a great observation. Yeah.
Well, Jono, you and I, we've been doing it for decades, sort of thing. So we forget
staring at ourselves.
Yeah.
Yeah, we get like a good red wine, man. We're getting better and better with age.
But the practicing in front of the mirror was one of those old techniques that was taught offline for decades. Practice in the mirror. Get yourself comfortable to where you're looking, what you're dressing like, all that sort of stuff. And now it's, there's actually no practice. I am live. And that's me looking at the camera.
Yeah, almost to the point though now. I mean, and it's not, this is not about us, but almost to the point where we don't think about it now, right? We kind of roll into it, and I don't know. Sometimes I think maybe we should think about it, but yeah, so you do get to that point where it becomes habit, it becomes normal. Obviously, that's where, Melanie, you would see, people's confidence builds, and they're putting a lot of those dark thoughts and negative thoughts to the side. But I really would love to just come back to that whole notion of, because the things that and then they're pretty obvious, but I'd love to hear it from you and some of the maybe the techniques that you use in terms of helping entrepreneurs speak up, helping them be more confident, helping them present well in front of the camera. So the first question, without this being too loaded, first question is, what are some of the common things that you see that are the resistors, I guess, to this?
The resistance probably is that fine line between being authentic but being professional. So people then, and you may have seen this as well, of like people can have one-on-one conversations, but then somebody gets to the top of the room and you're like, who are those people? Like who is that? It's like that persona of suddenly you've got up, you need to be this different person. So a lot of people really find that balance of taking a conversation that they're having one-on-one to then standing in front of people. And really, I say that you're having a conversation, whether it's one person, 10 people, 100 people, there's still ways in which you can engage with an audience that's still conversational. So that's a lot of the common problems that I see with people. Other ones as well of, yes, how much do I share of myself? Yeah. So a lot of people say, I don't want to share masses about myself. And I say, well, you don't have to. Like, that takes time to build up to that as well. But the resistance probably is an awful lot sometimes around what they think they want to say or what they think their audience wants to hear. So a lot of it, sometimes people can be in their own heads. And I say, well, it's not actually about you, it's actually about your audience. So there's certain things that we need to work out. What you believe is something to say isn't actually necessarily what they need to hear.
Yeah.
So a lot of that resistance can be around fear of doing something different, doing something that someone else. So really probably comes down to is change.
Yeah.
Because I'm then teaching people to do something differently than they've previously maybe understood or been taught before. So a lot of it is it's changing and putting yourself out there and outside your comfort zone to do these things. Yeah,
fantastic. Yeah, and I know certainly in that content space, and this is something that I personally suffer from, is a lot of these people have so much to share, right? They're so smart, they've got, and particularly if they are already conversational, the most common thing I hear is it's too much. Right. And how you pare it back, how you trim it back. So obviously, that's the beauty of things like podcasts and stuff, because you could just give a chunk of yourself, but also a chunk of your story away each time, rather than, feeling like I have to show up and throw up, so to speak, and so how do you help people do that?
So I take people through like a structure of being able to do that. And really it's firstly for each individual person that I would work with or in groups is really finding out well, who's your audience? Like, who are those people that you're actually speaking to? Bless you. So, you got the mute in there just in time as well. You're still on mute there, Jonathan.
The audience couldn't see that. This is my smoke and mirrors. I control what the audience can see.
That's right, exactly. So yeah, first of all, people need to know is who's their audience, who are they speaking to? And so once you really know who that is, then we're going to start being able to work out what you're going to say to people. And then we want to find out is that what's that end goal in mind by standing up or getting on camera, like what is the purpose? Because we can't, well, we shouldn't say, like, we shouldn't just get up and just start talking. Like there's got to be some sort of preparation behind it as well, especially if you're in the beginning stages of doing speaking. It's different as you move on, and maybe you're coming on to something like this. There's way of then, for me, I'm now at that stage where I have that idea of what I'm going to say, but I love to be able to be in the moment and communicate that. But if you're at the beginning stages, that's too overwhelming. You're going to be like, and the rabbit caught in the headlights, what if they ask me this and I don't know the answer? So I like to be able to help people have structures around what they're going to say, but still bringing in their own natural style to give them a basis to begin with, but then they can start to be able to tailor that off so that they can come on and do interviews and be able to do it more relaxed around that. But yeah, it's knowing who your audience is, what's your end goal in mind by speaking. And then by knowing what your end goal is, you can start to work out what's the value, what's the content. And then we start to piece that into maybe like 1, 2, or 3 sections to keep it really super simple. And that's another common mistake that people have, is that they want to vomit the information onto people. And it's a human nature thing that we want to help and fix everybody. But I say to people, you're actually doing people more of a disservice by giving way too much information to people. It's got to be, I love the word tangible. So everything that you're communicating to people needs to be tangible. If they can take one key thing away from what you're saying and start to implement it straight away, then your job is done for that particular section that you have. And then what I like to do at the end is, I used to call it call to action, but then I'm borrowing it from someone else that I heard this from. Later, we like to borrow things from other people. So I then heard it was call to connection, and I went, I quite like call to connection. It just feels, for a lot of people, they don't feel like it's salesy. And so it's more about call, and I call it call to connection because I heard it, but I love that because we want to end what you're saying on something that you could give them to do next. And that doesn't always necessarily mean about, oh, come and buy from me or work for me. It could just be,
well, in fact, as you know, a lot of the time it shouldn't be that.
Yes.
Right? Because it's all about the relational connection, and it's that whole, okay, so what's the next step? And the next step is not buy the product.
That's right, exactly.
And you watch a lot of these people who do this, and they'll take you through 2 or 3 kind of conversations before you actually buy something from them.
Yes.
And that's fantastic.
But a lot of practice too, isn't it? It's practice. Whether it's in front of the camera with other people, but starting with a close group of friends where they're not going to be too harsh on you, and then you practice it again, practice again. It's human nature.
Yeah. Well, I think some people kind of just jump in and go for it. This one you're talking about, it's like, it should be practice. So what about, okay, so we've talked about the people that, that there's a bit of fear around getting up and speaking, that sort of thing. But what about those people who are just super confident? How do you help them? Because they know it all already, right?
Yeah, that's right. Oh yeah, I know exactly, right? So
Mark and I can be a little bit like that.
Over-practiced.
Yeah.
And that's probably where I probably go through their content with a bit more of a fine-tooth comb, Because yes, people can have, and I suppose I look at it and go, well, is there a lot of ego going on? Because yes, we can be super confident, but you've got to, I suppose, watch that it doesn't overstep the mark and go into ego. And because I really want to help people around, it's around humility. You can still have confidence and have humility at the same time, but never getting to the point of the confidence becomes ego. So I then, with people that are confident, there would still tend to be things around their content that maybe just needs a bit of a fine tuning. And then if they are really confident, I actually then push them further. So then I encourage and push them to the next level. Because if they're already confident in what they're doing right now, we should never stay in our comfort zone. There's always the next level to go to. So then I would see is, well, where are they right now speaking? What are they doing now? And then I'll start making suggestions around, well, let's start looking at podcasts. Let's start looking at speaking from stage. So it's then taking them up a level to the next point of where they're going. So
you're really finding yourself becoming like a coach that's about stretching and guiding people and helping them really take those steps up.
Definitely. I mean, I already have a vision. When I get a client, I'm like, oh my God, I can see where they're going, but I can't do that in that moment because they would be like, you see me doing what now? So in my head, I know where I can take them, but I always remind myself that I meet people where they're at. Yes. And it's step by step of where I take them. And then I get to them and I go, well, is that something, would you consider maybe doing some interviews like this or being on a podcast? So you put it over and I suppose you make it into their what they're thinking. But I like to meet people where they're at, but I'm helping them to who they will become.
So it is transition, isn't it? You said it at the outset. It is transition training.
Yes.
And in Australia, you're getting many people who have what we call the corporate refugee, someone who has been corporate and then they've decided, you know what, I'm going to do something for myself now and I'm going to create something. Then you've got what was the other one? The corporate escapee.
Escapee and
so
the refugee.
They've gone, okay, there's been this big disruption. Now I need someone like Melanie to take me through perhaps starting something for myself in the corporate world, out of corporate and doing a spin.
Yeah, definitely. I do work with clients in the corporate space, but I also work with clients that are in the corporate space, but they've got a business on the side. And I suppose I'm helping them in a way of giving them tools and strategies with, well, if really what building your business is what you want to do, let's concentrate on that and where you need to go. So yeah, I do help people in that space as well. And I have helped people who have left and are now in that business. And I suppose in that it's a very different, because I was once an employee and I was once had an employee mindset. And, you don't kind of get taught how to go from employee mindset to entrepreneur mindset. You learn that the hard way throughout.
During COVID.
Yeah, exactly right. So I suppose in that way that it's good, because then I suppose I'm not just there to help people around speaking. I do help people in their business as well, because I can now help people create speaking to build their business. So I actually then help them how to structure that and be able to do that. But it's great then, yes, if I do get people in the corporate, to then say to them about, well, this is really how it works in the business world. You're going to have to shut that door and you're going to have a different mindset, because that's not going to serve you very well.
I had exactly that conversation this week with a highly talented lady in New York City that's been selling $100 million worth of software a year for 20 years. She just left her employer, and it's like, I don't know what to do next. I'm not ready for this.
Yeah, get out of New York City would be a good start. But
wow, what a resume, what a history, what a connection base. But put them, she was moving from a comfort zone, which became too comfortable, to something that, she hadn't sort of worked out what the new thing was, and it was very destabilizing.
Yeah. I've got a friend that's what he spends the bulk of his time is. It's almost like down training racehorses so they can be ridden by anybody again. It's down training those corporate executives so they can just get themselves into business. I've got a friend that's his entire business model.
Wow.
And it's a challenge because they're so used to. I mean, the comfort zone is you've got budgets, you've got things going on. You're probably successful at what you do. $100 million a year in software sales. Probably pretty confident in what you're doing, but it's that. It is that real fear of the unknown, that real stepping out thing. So,
how much demand is there today? Melanie just been talking about this massive growth and this massive demand. It's been thrust upon us probably a little bit faster than what it was going to happen anyway.
Yeah, we've seen a major uptick in people that are now thinking about either at least a side hustle or their own business from being unemployed more than anything else, or being laid off for a season. Employment's slowly returning here in the US. In fact, I think employment's returning everywhere in the world except Australia right now.
Yeah.
But it's one of those things. It's that that people are now having these opportunities to think differently. I mean, Melanie, your story is exactly that. You're already out in the entrepreneurial world, and yet you still found I can think differently. I've got friends who have written books, and so there's so much of this going on. And I think it's that's an exciting story in itself. That in everything there is opportunity.
Yes.
And so even for you, I'm sure there were those moments of like, what the heck am I doing?
Oh yeah.
Mark and I have never experienced that.
Let's talk about that, your story. We were going to talk about that in the beginning, but can you just bring us through a little bit of your story from how you started?
Thanks, Linda.
That's how people that they believe they can't do it because their story is different. And I'm not like that famous person who can do this, but tell us a little bit about your story.
So it's so interesting because the fact that I now speak on stage and speak on camera, and I was someone who was so petrified of public speaking, like literally avoided it for 30 years. Literally did everything that I could to never have to do it because it was just so frightening. And even just going for interviews, like I would be sweaty armpits, sweaty face, sweaty hands, blotchy face, the neck and the blotchy. Luckily I was in Scotland and I used to wear polo necks up to here and would pack on all the makeup.
I was going to say, no one gets hot in Scotland, do they?
But I used to be so scared of doing anything, even in a small group. Like when I was a manager, chairing meetings and stuff or going to meetings, I'd be like, I'm not standing up and introducing myself. Like, no, I'm not doing that. No. But like, it's weird. So I literally managed to avoid it. I would say probably until my mid-20s. I was then in university. And I was working full time and I was doing a degree at university part-time. And part of being able to pass that degree was you needed to do presentations. And I thought, are you kidding me? Like, no, we don't do that. We don't get up in front of the class and present. And I literally had tantrums. Like I was like, I'm going to the committee or the university person or whatever, and I'm going to make a complaint. I was adamant. The fear was so bad. I was like, justice needs to be done, making us present to pass the university degree. And I created such a havoc to the point of obviously I had to do it, but I created such havoc in it that then they brought me in on a Saturday and I think I presented in front of 2 people. So I got my way. So I had to do that. So that always worked really well for me to get my own way, right? To have tantrums like as I was a mid-20s. and hilarious. And then I did all that, and then that was done, and I thought, that's it, I'm never presenting again. I never have to ever again. And then I had an opportunity to come to Australia for a year. And I was given the book The Secret by Rhonda Byrne, if anybody's read that or heard of that before. And for someone who had never, ever been exposed to any self-development at all, I never even knew that these things existed. So I was probably pretty cynical, very kind of judgmental and cynical of the world, pretty angry, Scottish, red-headed woman. And someone gives me the book The Secret to tell me to take responsibility for my life. I was like, are you kidding me? And I said worse than that, but that's probably all right for camera. And I thought, are you kidding me? I have to take responsibility for my life and all the crap that's happened in it. And my friend gave me it back, and she said, oh, read it with an open mind. And I read it with an open mind. And literally 6 months later, I came to Australia, and I really started to see the benefits of self-development and really looking within and overcoming fears. And I thought, well, if I'm coming to the other side of the world, then let's just take the call to adventure. And like, what is my worst fear? What is all these things that really I want to overcome? And literally, I think within a few months, I suddenly found myself at Toastmasters, getting up and doing like a first talk in front of people, thinking, what the hell am I doing? And then I started to kind of see something in that. But prior to coming to Australia, I was doing network marketing, because I think I was born to be an entrepreneur, right? And I know that people, not necessarily born to be something, but I was never at home being an employee. I always had issues with managers. And I don't really think it was them. I think it was me that just did not like to be told what to do. So I think I was never, ever going to be an employee for the rest of my life. And I think then I thought, oh, I'm going to start this network marketing. I'm going to have this business on the side. I'm coming to Australia for a year, and I'm going to propel this business, and I'm going to be earning $1 million and all, all of what you think you're going to do when you start these things. And then I came to Australia, started to go to Toastmasters and overcome that fear of public speaking. And I suddenly realized that network marketing wasn't for me, and there was something else, but I didn't know what that was at the time. And then I found myself in central Queensland, where I met Mark and Linda. So due to visas, the only way that I could stay in Australia was to go regional. So that's what brought me up to Rockhampton and Yeppoon, was to get my visa to become a resident. And then while I was up there, I suppose I just kind of ran with it and started to go like, what can I create up here? I'm here for 2 years. Like, what can I do in this town? And that's when then I created an Entrepreneurs Toastmasters Club. So I think really like it's like what I take my clients. It's like I see where the people they could become. It's like I saw myself of what I could become, but what did I need to do to get there, but not really know what I was going to do. So I just thought, if I start surrounding myself with entrepreneurs and business owners, I was still in a job at the time. I thought, if I really start to do this, because the book The Secret says, what you put out there, what comes back. So let's create, all of these entrepreneurs and business owners beside me, and let's learn from them. And then really started to create that and be around like-minded people. And I started to learn and meet Linda and Mark, and just meet people and really find out more about business and about these opportunities. And really the catalyst for me starting was, on the side, I started mentoring and coaching people in business with speaking. And people were like, you should really like ask us to pay you and stuff like that for this. And I'd be like, really? Like, really? I should ask you to pay me for this? Like, really? And they're like, yeah, it's so valuable. I was like, okay. And then the catalyst for me was I collapsed. I turned up at work on a Monday morning and collapsed and ended up in for emergency surgery. So really? Again, after reading the book, The Secret, I went, well, there's the sledgehammer. I think I need to listen, because there's something in this, that this is not where I'm meant to be. And basically within 3 months, I quit that job. And then I got a casual job at a resort that I was living in, did that maybe 15 hours a week, 20 hours a week. and then built my business on the side, and then did that for maybe 4 or 5 months. And then just decided, you know what, the back door needs to be shut and I just need to go for my business and let's just see what happens. And literally that's what I did, and just went, I need to burn the ships, and I need to go for this, and there's no back door and there's no getting out, and I'm going to do this.
The parachute on the way down.
Oh, well done. And we've certainly watched you do that. Like, you have just, like, I've never seen, well, you know, I see a true entrepreneur when I see them say, like, how do I do this? And you go, well, I can connect you with this person, you go, boom, like that. And you're like, what was that? Like, so incredible to see. And you are such a, you're so hungry to, you know, I think we talked about the give first ethos. And you always do that. You always give first, and you, you know, hungry to help others. So that's, I think, what we need more of whenever there's a disruption in, you know, that we are experiencing now. People can become, you know, that catalyst of giving first, and then to see what happens. And that's exactly what you did. You gave first, and you went, oh, look, I'm getting something back.
Yeah, exactly.
Really great. Sorry, I interrupted your story, so keep going.
Oh, no, that's totally fine. But yeah, so and then I just went straight into my business, and as you say, like, I've just been, I suppose because I'm the motivation, I mean, I love what I do, and I love helping people, and that is super my motivation, absolutely. But my other motivation is that I live in Australia by myself. I have no back door. I have no real, I suppose, in terms of people's support right here in Australia. Like, I have, you know, had a couple of occasions where I potentially could have been homeless, and I have to make it happen. I have no other kind of financial support of anybody, and
that's a scary thing in a foreign country.
Oh.
We're all now in a sense going to, you know, experience some of that. It's like, you know, we've got visas, we've got residencies, we've got all sorts of things tied up in what we do, or what we don't do sometimes.
Exactly. But I think that when you do have motivation, and obviously my first and foremost is around my why, and why I love what I do, and the future that I already saw. And I suppose, just to quickly, I know the time, this is another thing that I used to do in Rockhampton, to share this with you, is that when I was surrounding myself with business people, I had a coach at the time, and he used to do this 5 a.m. club, and we used to meet in a cafe in Rockhampton, and he used to give us goal sheets, and you could write your goals, but also draw your goals. So this was way before, like, it would have been 3 years before I even started my business.
5 a.m.
Yeah, well, I get up at 4:30.
I could only draw pictures at 5 o'clock in the morning. That's it.
Oh, there's coffee involved, so it's all good. But I used to draw myself on stage. So every day, this would be like 3 years before this is what I was going to be doing. I used to draw myself on stage speaking. And every time I drew another picture, I would add some more chairs to, like, basically then have a bigger and bigger audience. So it was interesting, like, I was already setting that up. So then in the last couple of years, like, I have done some pretty big speaking on stage. And it's so interesting, because then I'm like, oh, I wonder if this was all set up, like, you know, 3-4 years ago when I was drawing these things.
The power of suggestion.
Wow.
Exactly.
So that's gotten you today to a fairly sounds like a very exciting business. I'm sure there are challenges now and challenges ahead. That's part of the journey, right? It is a journey. You know, but so what do you see as the future? We've got about 5 minutes left, but what do you see as the future of the business for you, or the future of Melanie?
So for me, like, now having the book that's coming out, I've now got online programs that are going live onto my website. So I suppose building that funnel from book to online programs, because I really have saw over the last 6 months of how I can pivot my business in a way that gives me more time back, but creating more group things. Because really for me is that I really want to be doing probably a lot more speaking, whether it's camera or on stage. I mean, obviously prior to COVID, my dream was to travel, and that's why with doing house sitting, I saw myself speaking globally and being able to travel globally and speak from stage, and then being able to have group programs and online programs that people are then being able to tap into.
What a beautiful gift, being forced to actually, in a sense, okay, now I've got to think through this.
Yeah.
On the ground, I'm finding myself in the same positions. Like, I just want to travel, like all of us. But yeah, but that gift is that you've been able to do a book, you've been able to, you know, put a few things together, put your training programs together that may or may not have been as effective if you were on the road all the time.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't have at the time. And I knew that by the year that I was meant to have, I went, that will never happen. And now, and I believe, I'm a big believer in that's setting me up for whatever is ahead of me with my vision to do that. And I've done quite a lot of speaking over the 6 months online in America, around the world, and I've been on global summits. So either way, virtually or in person, eventually, it's still a platform to be able to reach more people and speak to people anyway. So really my vision is to help more people and being able to have a voice, but give other people a voice to be able to do the same. And it's giving people permission that they do have the power within themselves to pivot, to change, and be able to do that for themselves as well.
Fantastic. So there we go, guys. We heard that first. We knew her before she was super famous. She's already famous. But, we knew her before she was super famous. And one day this video alone will be worth millions. We'll give you a cut, all right? Oh, that's beautiful. Well, it's 3 minutes to the top of the hour, and we do need to wrap this up. We'll obviously keep chatting once we pull down the Facebook Live. But this has been a fantastic. I enjoyed this personally. As Linda and I are both personal and leadership coaches, and Mark, obviously he knows all the stuff anyway. A, from hanging out with me and Linda, and B, because he confronts it on a day-to-day basis in the people he works with. But this whole concept of really taking a grip of yourself, right? Which is really the common theme coming through your story. And the other thing which we're hearing every single week is well, I mean, the COVID stories, maybe in 5 or 10 years time, people will go, what was COVID? But it's irrelevant. It's the art of the pivot, right? And staying, and we've talked about this a lot, right, guys? We've talked about a lot about staying open to be able to pivot. So those opportunities, they seemingly fall on your lap, right? I'm less of a believer in that and more of a believer in being open, and they're actually already there, right? Yeah. And so, I think that's a really great story. I've really enjoyed hearing your story. I've enjoyed so how can people get in touch with you?
So Speaking Styles is on all social medias. Speakingstyles.com.
We see you on social media.
Yeah, I'm on everywhere on social media. if you've noticed.
And we did Instagram Live together for the first time the other day.
I know. I was like, it's so exciting. I feel like I've done a lot of firsts in 2020. I tell you.
Yeah, that was my second, but yeah. Yeah, no, that's fantastic. So speakingstyles.com.
Yeah, speakingstyles.com.au, or find me on Facebook, Speaking Styles, and connect with me.
Fantastic.
And also, you're running a course at the moment. You're in the middle of it at the moment on your page, aren't you?
Yes.
That's about being seen and being heard. Is that right?
Yeah, so I'm doing in my closed group. So I've done, tonight was third night out of 4, and so it's a 4-night or 4-day training to help people just be, really I think it's now time for people, if they have been maybe being in hiding over COVID, it's now time to step out and be seen and heard, and really help around storytelling, like that probably coming out of of COVID. I already used to do it, but I've been doing it a lot more because I think that stories is really powerful coming out of this. So yeah, I've been doing that. It's still live in the group, so if anybody does want to come into the group and be able to go back and watch that on replay, it is a 4-day free training that I'm doing inside
Fantastic.
my closed group.
We'll have to grab a link to that and make sure that comes out on all the videos and so forth. So,
yeah, I'll put it in. No worries.
Yeah, great. Well, it's been wonderful. Mark and Linda, thanks for joining us today, and good to see you all in sunny France by the looks of it. It's
oh yeah, 33.
we're starting to get our first cool now. You know, we're you're a bit hot. Yeah, it's only about 15 or 14 or 15 degrees here today.
Oh,
this morning. It'll be hot later.
It is early your time. We got 2 o'clock and it's about 33 centigrade here.
Yeah, we ain't getting to that today, but no, beautiful. So, Melanie, thank you so much. It was wonderful to have you on. I can't wait to do this again. You know, even maybe we can look at some pockets of trainings and how maybe you can do what you do with our audience. You know, get our community involved and build your business there as well. So, thank you so much, guys. Good to see you again. Yeah, so this video will obviously be also put up on YouTube, so you can come back and revisit. There's so many nuggets in here. We'll be getting the tips and takeaways out, sometime in the next day or so. So thanks very much. I'm John O'Brake with Mark and Linda. We've been with Melanie Wood from Speaking Styles. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Hi.